My husband and I have been married for 6 years. At least 5 of those have been almost no contact with his mother. I don't know the whole story, but his dad passed away when he was young, and his mom remarried a man who was abusive to him up until he moved out. He tried to tell his mother for years, but she couldn't believe it. Finally, it got to the point that, for his own well-being, he just couldn't be around her anymore. This week, after years of silence, she shows up at our doorstep. She said she tried to call, but we have her blocked, so obviously it didn't go through. She was in tears and started crying about how her husband had trashed her house and left her. And she realized her son was telling the truth, how she didn't have anyone, all that crap. She begged to talk to my husband. I said she had some balls coming to our house to cry after throwing her son to the side for a disgusting predator until that stopped working for her. I said she made her bed. Now's the time to lay in it, and it wasn't going to be at my house. She was almost hysterical when she left. Her coming to the door put my husband into a panic attack. He's been too depressed to get out of bed since. I really don't care for that woman, but when I replay it in my head, I feel absolutely terrible. Berating someone in tears never feels good. And now I think I just might have made things worse. Should I have done something differently? Am I the idiot for telling my mother-in-law she gave up her family and it's fault she's alone? Not the idiot, you're a queen. She showed up because she wanted something, nothing more, nothing less. She would have soaked you and your husband for free room and board and asked for money, and likely would have ended up reconciling with her husband and done the, he's sorry, let's let go of the past and stop holding a grudge, self-justifying monologue. Opie, you likely saved your family thousands of dollars down the road too. Bingo. I picture Opie in a long robe and a pointy hat yelling, "You shall not pass," to her mother-in-law. Opie did to mother-in-law, but mother-in-law should have done to her new husband years ago. There's a special place for people who choose their romantic partners over their own children. Dear old mom made her choice. And sadly, Opie's husband has to bear the brunt of the consequences. Opie should not even have a shred of guilt for telling the mother-in-law off. Mother-in-law should get back on her broom and ride off into the sunset. How dramatic. She was in tears and started crying about how her husband has trashed her house and left her. And she realized her son was telling the truth, how she didn't have anyone. All that crap. Look at what she said. It's not about how she's sorry for what she did to your husband by enabling his abuse. It's not about how your husband has suffered due to her choices. What's missing is anything real about her son. It's all about her. Her house got trashed. She tried to play you, manipulate you, and get you to join her pity party and become her new support system. You did the best you could in a bad situation. That wasn't your fault. The woman had your address. That means she could have written a letter. She didn't. She didn't ask by letter first if it was okay to meet up someday somehow. She did an ambush because this was about her wants, her feelings, and her trying to get something from the two of you. What you did was primal and rightfully protective. Now ask what your husband needs. I learned that no matter how terrible a parent treats a child, that now grown child still craves approval from that parent. It was difficult for me to understand. Find out what he needs. That's what matters now. If your husband needs extra therapy sessions to process and cope with this, help set them up. Good luck. I hope mother-in-law never shows up again. Alright, so my husband and I are on vacation with our toddler son. Well, technically my husband is a stepdad. The husband's parents came as well. I had no issues with this. We got along fine. Anyways, we were all walking around enjoying our time when we saw some teen and young adults dancing really well. My son loves music and dancing, so he was excited and practically begged us to watch them perform. They were great, extremely talented, and my son enjoyed it. The song and dance were pretty feminine, but 2 of the dancers were male. My husband and I thought nothing of this, and neither did my son. But my in-laws were put off. My father-in-law looked a little disgusted, for lack of better words. And he was especially concerned when he noticed my son trying to mimic their dancing. On the other hand, my son was so hyped up and the dancers noticed, I guess, so they thanked him and even engaged with him a little bit. It was a lovely sight. Not even gonna lie, it might have been the best part of the vacation. I've never seen my kid that happy, haha. But after we left and sat down at a restaurant, my father-in-law started ranting about the gay BS he had to witness. My husband told him to relax and not swear in front of our son, but father-in-law was angry. We're being brainwashed and allowing our child to become one of them. I rolled my eyes and went, boys that dance? How scary. My father-in-law was like, that's not what I mean. So, I replied with, my bad, boys that dance with glitter on, even scarier. I'm traumatized. I then asked my son if he was traumatized, which he obviously didn't understand. So, he just giggled and my father-in-law got up and left saying that he refused to be treated like a fool in public. Mother-in-law whisper yelled at me after saying I just ruined the trip and should have kept my big mouth shut. My husband didn't care and said his dad had it coming, but it did ruin the trip. My father-in-law was angry at me the whole time. He even ran into a poor waiter the next night about how he gets treated like dirt by his son and daughter-in-law for simply voicing his concerns. He's also insisting that we should have had a mature conversation instead of mocking him and involving my son. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. What's gay about dancing? His concerns were ridiculous, and if he wanted a mature conversation, he should have had something mature to say. You can't have a mature conversation with a prejudiced fool, and he's the one who brought your son into it by showing off his bigotry in front of him. If you don't want to be treated like a fool, don't act like a fool. However, the husband's the one I'm frustrated with here. Bigot's gonna bigot, but your husband better decide whether he cares more about your son than keeping the peace for the bigot's sake. Your husband needs to step the heck up. The swearing is not what concerns me about the things father-in-law said in front of your son. Your husband is who I would be most upset with here, not father-in-law. You're not raising a kid with father-in-law. Your father-in-law just said he wouldn't care for your son in the same way if he was gay. Let's imagine 10 years from now, your son does have a crush on a boy and he's a bit on the feminine side. What would your husband do about his father? Also, mother-in-law sucks too. The only one who ruined the trip was her husband and she sides with him. She should have noticed his behavior and called him out on it instead of having her daughter-in-law be the one to do it. She's an enabler. I, 19 female, am currently 7 months pregnant with my first child and my boyfriend 21, and I were really excited to celebrate with our family and friends at our baby shower last weekend. However, things didn't go exactly as planned. My boyfriend's family is pretty traditional, and they weren't too happy that we were having a baby out of wedlock. They've been pretty distant and cold towards me since the announcement, but I thought the shower might be a chance for us to bond and put our differences aside. Boy, was I wrong. From the moment I arrived, my boyfriend's aunt made snide comments about my age and how young mothers never know what they're doing. Then his brother asked if I was planning on getting a job after the baby was born, implying that I would mooch off my boyfriend for the rest of my life or something. Things came to a head when my boyfriend's mom gave me a gift bag filled with baby clothes in all pink. When I politely pointed out that we were having a boy, she rolled her eyes and said, "Oh well, I just assumed that since you were so young, you probably don't know the gender of your own baby." At that point I was done. I stood up and announced that I didn't feel welcome there and that I was leaving. My boyfriend tried to convince me to stay, but I was so upset that I just walked out. Now my boyfriend's family is calling me rude and ungrateful for storming out of my baby shower, but I feel like they were disrespectful to me. I'm especially hurt that my boyfriend's family thinks I can't even care for my own child. Am I the idiot for leaving? Not the idiot. You didn't feel welcome because you weren't welcome. Also, oh well, I just assumed that since you're so young, you probably don't know the gender of your baby. That's the strangest dig I've ever heard. Young moms not knowing the gender of their babies is not a thing. Was she trying to imply that young moms are too poor or irresponsible to go to the OBGYN regularly? And if that's the case, this one is carrying your grandchild, so tell me how she's too poor to see a doctor and you don't think that's your problem. And why would she have assumed it was a girl? That's so idiotic, to be honest. 50 to 50 chance of being publicly embarrassed by getting it wrong. Oh boy, it sounds like mother-in-law was starting the fireworks show off quite early. All of those digs and I'd be running out the door as well. Mommy dearest is mad she'll no longer be the center of her son's universe. I would have added, I guess you aren't interested in being a part of your grandchild's life. Too bad you don't know the rule about being kind to the mother if you want to see the baby. The fact that your boyfriend didn't tell his family to back down and stop treating you like crap is even worse than their behavior. Your boyfriend's family is idiots, and I'm even considering him one since he didn't support you and stand up for you. While it might sound harsh, you need to have an immediate and serious conversation with your boyfriend about how he'll handle the situation going forward. If he's unwilling to immediately step up and advise his family to stop their crap and treat you respectfully, then you'd be very well advised to start preparing to be a single mother. Any person who would let their family treat their partner this way will not make a good parent. I, 26 male, am married to Freya, 25 female, and we're expecting a baby together. My sister-in-law, Molly, 24, is the golden child in my wife's family. My wife has mentioned that to me before, and she doesn't speak to her parents very often, or that sister for that matter. My experiences with Molly have been interesting to say the least. When I first met her, she asked me intrusive questions about intimacy, money, etc. We left because she wouldn't stop. She judged my dad for having me as a single dad by choice. That was after she called me a liar, insisted that I had a mom, and when she accepted that it was just my dad and me, she insisted I must have been adopted by him. She called me selfish and said that he was a bad father. All kinds of things. We left then too because she again would not stop saying that crap. She always believes she can tell people what to do, and they should listen because she thinks she knows best about everything. Some other things she has said to me or argued with me over. She told me I should hate my dad for intentionally being a single dad. She said my dad was a stupid idiot who picked a dumb name for me. She told me I should demand the woman who gave birth to me should step up and be my mom. She told me I should change my name to James or Christopher and have a normal name. Freya and I became more distant from Molly when Molly seemed to seek us out just to share more of her wisdom with us. Then a few months ago, she reached out to Freya and said she had nobody else but their parents and how her friends had broken up with her by calling her names and saying she was insufferable. Freya was trying to see if she and Molly could be closer. She had Molly apologize to me, and they were slowly building a relationship. Then several days ago, Molly asked what we were naming our baby. Freya said we weren't sharing it until the baby was born. She told us to name the baby Emily or Henry. She said that we shouldn't give the baby a dumb name like mine. Freya told her that we're not taking suggestions for names. She told me I shouldn't be like my dad. I should be better and not give our kid a dumb name. She brought up how her parents thought she had the best baby names. Freya told her she didn't care what their parents thought, that this was our baby, and we would name them. Molly told Freya that she shouldn't discard their parents since they raised them, and that she was always the wiser one and people need to listen to her more because she gives out good advice to people. Then she suggested my father had bad motives for having me alone, and I snapped. I told her it was no wonder nobody liked her or wanted her around because she was a spoiled, judgmental idiot, and I was sick and tired of hearing her stupid advice because she was clueless. Molly burst into tears and called me an idiot. Freya laughed and told me it was what she was thinking. Molly sent a text to Freya afterwards saying that what I said was so mean. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. It is telling if Molly's friend can't even stand her anymore. Makes me wonder if her behavior with you and Freya is very common and nobody really likes her because of it. Stay away from her and her drama. I hope she learns her lesson someday, or she's gonna face a lot of lonely times. Sometimes speech is silver but silence is golden. Your sister-in-law needs to learn that people don't need to know every thought rattling around in her head, or how she feels that she's better than everyone else. I'm sorry, but Molly won't change. If more people called her out on her behavior more often, perhaps she'd have turned out less hateful and less unlovable, but it's too late to change her now. All you can do is avoid her. Don't let Molly in your home ever again, and good teamwork with your wife here. I, 19 male, have 2 siblings, AJ 24 male and Kaylee teen female. Our dad died when Kaylee was a baby. Our mom has worked hard ever since. She definitely has leaned a lot on AJ, and I try to help when I can alleviate that pressure. In spite of this, AJ has still taken on a lot of responsibility. Kaylee's pretty responsible, but she can't get up on time to save her life. She'll get up but then hit snooze. She's tried all the tricks. Alarm across the room, those apps on your phone where you have to solve math equations. She just won't get up. I think part of the problem is AJ will always wake her up. I've said that this isn't healthy. What happens when he moves out or goes to college? She's too old that she probably would learn if he didn't do this. My mom and AJ have said that there's nothing wrong with it, so I let it go. AJ's in grad school. He decided to crash at a friend's dorm one night as they attended a party. He told me to wake Kaylee up ahead of time as our mom goes to work early and I'm up at that time for work. I said he knew how I felt about this. He told me it wouldn't kill me and walked away. Yesterday morning I heard Kaylee's alarms as I got ready. I decided to let her learn and she was still sleeping. She takes the bus, so if she gets up within the next 15 minutes she'd be okay. Around 10 my cell rang. It's my mom freaking out. She got a call saying that Kaylee never showed up to school. I panicked momentarily, then remembered. I told my mom to check at home. Sure enough, Kaylee was at home still sleeping. My mom woke her up and took the rest of the day off. She had been terrified something terrible had happened. AJ blames me. Kaylee isn't mad, really just embarrassed, but AJ says I should have woken her up. I said she's a teen and it's a hard lesson. My mom isn't too upset, but she said that at a minimum I should have texted her to let her know Kaylee was still asleep when I left. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She's old enough that the only person who should be responsible for getting her up is her. I've lived with several people who never learned how to get up independently because there's always someone who enables their poor behavior. I don't know if this stems from childhood or not. By the time I was 11, I had a paper route and I was getting up on my own for school and work. I'm to the point my body often wakes up on its own around the time I need, with or without a clock. I entertained some of these people, but it got old. It's frustrating and annoying having someone rely on you to get them up, and then acting like idiots when you don't. You get them an atomic alarm clock. They sell them on Amazon. They have a decibel level of 80 plus and comes with a mattress vibrator to shake the bed as well. Everyone's the idiot here. AJ sucks for not asking you to wake her up. You suck for not telling everyone that you wouldn't do it. Your poor freaking mom for scaring her like that. You should definitely be ashamed of yourself. Kaylee sucks for not taking responsibility for her own actions. At her age, she must have a medical condition that needs to be addressed, or she needs to grow the heck up. The only one who doesn't suck here is your overworked, stressed out mom. I disagree. Opie didn't scare his mom. Her daughter didn't appear in school. She scared her mom herself. This is neither yours nor AJ's issue to deal with. Your sister's old enough to get herself up. Ultimately, this is up to your mom to handle, not voiced off onto you guys. I also don't think you're the idiot for not sending a message to your mom. Will there ever be a time she won't rely on you and your— I, 22 female, have been raising my siblings since my mom abandoned us for another man 7 years ago. So I was rather young when the life of 5 underage kids fell into my shoulders. My siblings are Emma, nearly adult, Jesse, young teen, and Jacob, tween. Anna, pre-tween, and Alexa, young child, are my half-siblings. But when my mom abandoned us again, I couldn't bring myself to leave them. It's a long story, so I won't get into detail. It's been very hard to take care of them. Honestly, I had to give up on so many things in my life so that I could give a better life to my siblings. I know how hard it is for them to be left alone without the support of their mom and dad. So I did my best to ensure they won't lack anything. I tried to work multiple jobs so that they could join clubs they wanted and get them relatively good stuff so that their classmates won't make fun of them. I tried to be there for them when they needed me, regardless of how tired I was. I genuinely tried my best. For the last couple of years, I've worked as a dancer at a club to get money to send my older siblings to college. I'm ashamed of working there, but if that's what it takes for my siblings to have a decent life, I can put up with it. But here's the thing. Recently, Emma got into a relationship with one guy, 19. He's not the best, to be honest. He gives many red flags. I've tried to talk to Emma, but she didn't listen, so I thought maybe it would just be a short-lived relationship. But a week ago, Emma announced during dinner time that she was pregnant, and it made up her mind about keeping a baby. I've tried to talk to Emma about how it's not right, and that she should concentrate on getting to college or anything that will help her achieve her dreams. But she said that she had made up her mind and that I won't change it no matter what. When I asked how she was planning to take care of the baby, she said I was a bit taken aback, but I told her I'm not going to do it, and if she wants to keep the baby, she has to figure something out on her own. I'm sorry, but I can't put myself through that roller coaster of caring for a baby when I've already gone through that 5 times. Emma got mad at me. She yelled at me and told me that it was my responsibility to take care of her and the rest of the family, and how I had done it before and I could do it again. She said because I made good, dirty money, I can afford to have another baby and take care of it while she'll get her life in better condition than I made it for her. I repeated that I did my best and I don't want to take care of another baby. But she just called me the worst sister ever. All that made me rethink everything. So am I the idiot? I don't know. I feel like a horrible person. Not the idiot. Tell her categorically that your dirty money will not support her anymore. She can go ahead and earn good money and fend for herself and her child. Please do not give in. Her contempt for your livelihood should be the last straw. Her sense of entitlement shows that you've provided for her above and beyond just necessities. Stop now. She can fend for her judgmental butt. This is the right answer. She tried to make you feel guilty over the dirty money. That was a very low jab. If it's legal, it's not a dirty job. Considering your sacrifice to raise them, you have every right to think over yourself now. You don't want to go again for another 18 years. She wants the kids. Fine. But that's her business now. Do you want to play an adult game? Go get a job and find out by yourself how hard it is. Emma needs a serious wake-up call. You're right in what you said to her. Don't back down. Someday you need to start living your own life. You were younger than her when you became a parent. And to be completely blunt, throw her ungrateful entitled idiot out of your home. I'm not sure if she legally can. Yet, once Emma's 18, she should be able to kick her out with no problem. Do not cave to your sister. She can go to the baby daddy for help if she wants to keep the child. It took 2 people to make that kid, and neither of them was you. You are not a horrible person. You took care of your siblings when most of them would have given them to anyone else. But you know your limit, and it's not fair to you that you keep being stretched thin to take care of everyone. My fiancé 32 female and I 35 male have been together for nearly 5 years. My fiancé is currently 26 weeks pregnant with our little boy. My fiancé has 2 little girls. The oldest, preteen female, is biologically my fiancé's daughter. And the youngest, female young child, is biologically my fiancé's niece, her sister's daughter. But my fiancé has special guardianship of her, so makes all legal and medical decisions. Important info, both girls have the same last name as my fiancé. I love both these girls with my whole heart. I would do anything literally for them. We will get married in about a month, our 5-year anniversary. We're currently in the process of me adopting the older girl and adding my name to the guardianship of the youngest. Unfortunately, we can't legally change her last name due to the legal issues surrounding the youngest case. My fiancé and I talked, and I suggested that the simplest answer was for me to change my last name to the same as my fiancé. I don't want to double-barrel my last name, as I feel this defeats the whole point. I want us to all share the same last name. This also means when our baby boy is born, he will be given my fiancé's by then mine as well last name. My parents have always been, in my opinion, obsessed with carrying on our family name, so I knew this decision would upset them. I know it's harsh, but my little ones mean more to me than my parents' obsession. I had a sit-down talk with them. Mom was crying and Dad was angry. Neither understood my decision. They want us to change both girls' names to my current last name. Apparently, that was the obvious decision. Changing my name will obviously disgrace our family. What will people think? I'll make my parents fodder for gossip. My fiancé did suggest using my current last name as the baby boy's first name. I didn't even suggest this to my parents. My last name is alright, but it would be a god-awful first name. And I'm not doing that to our son. My mom was demanding I talk sense into my fiancé. Our conversation ended with me telling them I'm not interested in their tears, drama, or their opinion. And I won't allow them to talk to my fiancé until they're less emotional. She's nearly 6 months pregnant. And the last thing she needs is my parents shouting at her for a decision I made. Am I the idiot for how I spoke to my parents? Am I the idiot for changing my last name when it means so much to them? Not the idiot. I just don't understand why this outdated patronymic tradition is such a big deal to some people. While I can understand your parents' disappointment, getting this emotional is irrational. They're asking you to have 3 people change their last name even though you legally can't change one versus one person, which is simpler. As long as you don't mind, they shouldn't mind. It's not the name that matters, it's the person. Carrying on the family name is a really stupid social norm. Everyone's situation is different. What a wonderful person you are to do this for your kids. And you're right. Your kids are more important than your parents' desire to have you keep your last name. My husband took my last name when we married. It's not uncommon. It's not shameful. No one cares that we did this. Your parents suck for painting this as some huge, insurmountable problem. It's literally got nothing to do with them. Next, tell them if they keep up their tantrum, you will go low contact. I am a nearly adult male and the youngest in the family. I was adopted at the age of 4. My biological mom was best friends with my adoptive mom, and she legally adopted me after my biological mom passed away. Any reference to my parents below refers to my adoptive parents. I have 3 older siblings. My parents covered their college tuition in full, and then covered law and medical school for 2 of them. The other sibling didn't go to grad school. They also gave them a stipend to cover living expenses. I talked to my parents about college and what help I could expect. And surprisingly, they told me there wouldn't be any help because they didn't have any money left after they paid for my siblings. I wasn't expecting a similar level of support, but I was expecting some help. My mom told me that my bio mom didn't leave money for my college, so I'll be on my own. So I asked if this was really about money or if this was about me being adopted and not their real son. They were offended, but reassured me that they generally couldn't afford it after they purchased a condo for my sister earlier this year. And it takes a few years for their finances to recover. So it's just my bad luck that this has coincided with me going to college and there's nothing they can do now. I called them out and told them that I wasn't buying this explanation, and that they wouldn't be doing this to me if I was their biological child. My dad reminded me that I'm acting in an entitled way, and should instead learn that we don't always get what we want. He told me that most parents couldn't fund their children's college tuition, and I'm acting like I'm entitled to a tuition-free college when I'm not. But my point has been about being treated unfairly compared to my siblings. In the end, they told me they don't really need my permission or approval to support any of their kids, and I just need to accept that this is their decision. I said in that case, they also need to accept that I believe I'm being treated differently because I'm adopted, and their answers have not been convincing. They told me I was being an entitled brat. Now I fear that I may have overstepped, and indeed maybe I am being an idiot. Not the idiot. Of course, kids are not entitled to their parents paying for college and condos, but I think you're entitled to the same treatment as your siblings. If they support one, they should support all. Your age is not a secret. So they knew college was coming up and they were making a choice. They helped out all their other kids with college, then bought their daughter a condo, then told you it's not your business what they do with their money. Then they call you an entitled brat. How are you supposed to feel? I'd feel left out if all of this is true. They're treating you differently, and sure as heck it's because you're not their biological kid. Sorry, that sucks. OMG, they never plan to pay. Buying your sister a condo is a convenient excuse. If they planned to pay, they would have set aside that money. It's not like you going to college is a sudden surprise. I would literally bow to them every time I walked in the room and say, "Thank you so much for everything you've done for the orphan." They want 2 classes of people in their household, reminding them that it exists at every turn. Personally, I find this to be a ridiculous argument, but here we go. I got married recently, and for family pictures on my side, we decided to do just my mom and dad divorced, as both of their new partners came into my life as an adult. And to be honest, I can't stand either of them. My dad just assumed I wouldn't want his wife if she isn't family to me. And my mom knows full well that I'll never take a picture with her boyfriend after the things he said about me. Neither said a word about this. We got the pictures back recently, and my wife is furious because my dad had his hands on my mom's waist. I don't see why that's a bad thing. My wife said it's creating a false narrative that they were together. People would think it was weird, and our future kids would assume they were married at the time. I said it could be much worse. My mom could have been one of those crazy mothers-in-law. My dad could have had his typical grumpy face. I thought the pictures looked nice. My wife disagreed, but I thought we put it behind us. We had dinner recently with my dad and his wife, and my wife gave him a copy of the pictures. She pointed out his hands and asked him why he took it upon himself to stage the pictures, and why he thought that was an appropriate picture. He said it just seemed like the natural place to place his hands. He told her to calm down, which made things worse, and she began getting an attitude. I intervened and said he didn't ruin the pictures and to leave him alone. I said it was such a minor thing and who cares, but I told him to stop laughing as my wife being upset isn't funny. My wife feels I betrayed her, and that I'm not trying to see things from her point of view. Am I the idiot? OMG, false narrative? Dude, does she know your parents were married before it had you, right? Like they did used to be a thing. Who will go through the wedding pictures and nitpick it's something like a pose from the parents of one side of the family? It's just a good thing that your parents are capable of being able to act nicely together at a wedding. What does she want? Drama and cake throwing? I hope she's not usually like this, or you're not going to have a happy marriage. Your wife is nuts. I'm so sorry. Your wife severely overestimates how interested your future kids will be in the wedding photos. Besides, what does she want instead? For them to be screaming at each other or looking like they wish the other person was on the other side of the world so there'd be no question to any outside observer they weren't together. And what exactly does she want to be done about it now? If she doesn't drop it, let alone stop throwing around ridiculous overreactions like betrayal. Seriously, I don't hold out much hope that this marriage will last long enough for anyone to care about the photos. Apparently, father should have been attempting to strangle his ex because that would be closer to the truth. Your wife sounds like a bridezilla. I would have loved to have my parents get along. They wouldn't have stood next to each other in a picture, let alone allowed hands on each other. Your parents did something nice for you. She needs to drop it. This is such a strange thing to have an issue with. I'm a male teen and this might sound dramatic, but bear with me. My mom was married before and had my half-sister Mia, is now 27. She met my dad when Mia was 7 and had my sister Brooke. Brooke was born with disabilities that would require lifelong care and support. Mia hated that mom was married to dad and wanted nothing to do with Brooke. And they worried about who would take care of Brooke when they were gone, so they had another kid, me, so she'd have a caregiver in the future. I've spent my whole life with this knowledge and being trained to put Brooke first, and to be willing to take over her care once I'm needed. The pressure's even worse since Mia doesn't want anything to do with Brooke or me, and always refuses to get any training for taking care of Brooke. I hate that my parents expected it out of us in the first place, but I hate being doomed. I'm facing a life of caring for my sister and needing to devote my life to her. But I'd feel bad getting married and having kids because she'll always need more care. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be in charge of her. But if I say no, she has nobody except to go into some sort of care facility, and I know my parents have not planned for that, so it would still fall on me. I've been lashing out at my parents more lately, so they brought me to therapy, and this is when I told them I hated them for having me. I told them they gave me a burden to carry my whole life before my mom gave me birth. My parents are mad at me and they think I'm selfish. They also think my feelings about caring for my sister make me cruel. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You are not responsible for your parents' children. You're a child yourself. They should have saved up for care and help for your sister. I stress again, this is not your responsibility at all. How people sacrifice the happiness of one child to be able to help another child and relieve their guilt is beyond me. Seriously, anyone that has another kid for the sole purpose of the younger kid taking care of an older sibling is trash. It is so beyond wrong, and they have some nerve calling OP selfish and cruel. I hope OP realizes they're just trying to guilt him into being their slave again. They had plenty of time to organize care for when they passed and save for it. Rather than being responsible, they chose to have another child. Responsibility for your sister is not something they're physically capable of transferring to any other person without a pay schedule. Call CPS. That's abuse. They can't force you to stay, especially when you're 18. I would talk to your therapist, teachers, or sympathetic relatives. You need to start building your plan to become independent when you turn 18. Your sister is not your responsibility, and putting that weight on you and telling you that's why they had you is abusive and terrible. Get out. It is your life, not. Before going to college, I asked mom to help with tuition and I'd find my own way for accommodation and general money. She said no and that I should just work harder. Fine, I got 2 jobs and earned a scholarship in my second year. I had to pay for my own party for my graduation because she said she wouldn't. When I got offered a job across the country, I asked her to assist me with just the first month's rent and I'd pay her back when I got paid. She said she couldn't and I had to let the job go despite it being a golden turkey given to me on a silver plate. But whatever. I managed to get another job closer about after 6 months of unemployment. All this time, she had a savings account with money she'd been saving and what my late stepdad left her. There's a lot of money in there. It wouldn't have rendered her destitute to have helped me on at least one of these occasions. Still, it's her money and I'm really not an entitled kid, so I never brought it up, even though I've always known about the account and let it go after she said no. She used to say it was for her retirement and I completely respected that. She's been dating Dave for about 5 years now and recently, Dave got in trouble with the law and needed bail money, a lot of money, 6 figures, and my mom paid for it. Not only that, but she's going to pay for his lawyer. All from this savings account. When I heard this, I got upset because what in the world? She didn't even consider helping me out, but didn't waste a second hopping to the bank for her troublesome boyfriend. I told her she was a crap mom and unsupportive. Then we had a back and forth where she called me ungrateful and entitled. So am I the idiot here? Not the idiot. I firmly believe that when you have a child, you're financially tied to that person for life, not until you turn 18. It would be one thing if your mom was saving that money for retirement, but she's made it clear that she wasn't. She was saving it for some deadbeat loser, who allegedly did something so awful that his bail was in the six figures. You're not entitled to ask for help from your mom. Your mom is the idiot for repeatedly refusing to help her child, but the very reasonable expenses, and then turning around and throwing it away for some guy. I think the dude scammed OP's mommy. It's going to be glorious when you can tell her "I told you so" smugly when she realizes she wasted all her money on that flea bag. Even more so when she inevitably comes to you with her hand out. Tell her she should have worked harder and she'll need to get a job if she needs money that badly. Fee jumps bail please update. That would be the perfect cherry on top. Wow honey, your mom had six figures in savings, and used it to bail out a loser friend instead of her daughter's tuition. She can't be bothered with what, $5,000 or less for moving and first month's expenses for her child so they can succeed in their career. Even without the boyfriend being in trouble, I can't fathom the mindset of a parent that wouldn't pay 1 month of rent for their child to move for an excellent job, knowing full well that they can easily do it and will get the money back. That's some crappy mothering. You're calling it as you see it. Opie, you sound smart and capable. However, your mother has issues, apparently, by putting her terrible boyfriend ahead of her daughter and her daughter's education. I'm speechless. It might be time to distance yourself from someone who has failed you repeatedly, and clearly doesn't have your best interest at heart. You'll probably hear from her again when she needs money for a nursing home, and then it'll be your turn to tell her she should have worked harder and she sounds entitled. I am 20 female and my brother's 28 male, and my now sister-in-law is 30 female. About 6 months ago I stuck to a weight loss regime and it worked. I was 135 pounds and 5 feet 1 inch. Now I'm 105 pounds. 6 to 7 months ago, my brother told me that his now wife, with whom I was kind of friends, wanted me there as a bridesmaid. I've gone to Starbucks with her a few times and gotten our nails done together. I got busy with school and focusing on weight loss. I didn't see them for a long time. Yes, of course there were breaks, but I wanted to rest in my apartment because I was burnt out from school. I appreciate their understanding that I have school, and can't make it when they're picking bridesmaids' dresses and other things. The college I go to is across the country. We live on the East Coast. So when I saw them again, 30 pounds lighter, my now sister-in-law said, "Why did you lose weight?" And I replied saying because I felt I wasn't healthy but now I feel my best. She frowned and didn't say anything. I talked it up to her being a bit nervous about her wedding. She had already sent me the dress photos and needed me to come for measurements, but I couldn't because it wasn't in my budget. Flight tickets are expensive. So, they got me a FaceTime with the person who measured and made the dresses based on that and helped me measure over the call. Recently, my brother approached me and asked if I could put on a few pounds and explained his now wife is jealous of how I look thinner than her. I asked to speak to her about this matter. She agreed to talk, and I told her that her big day shouldn't be ruined by how big or small someone is. We should love how we are. She got angry and told me it wasn't hard to gain a few pounds in the next 3 weeks. I told her calmly I won't be attending if she thinks like this. She started to lose her temper and started to insult me saying that I used to be a fat cow and other things of that sort. So, I just finally said, "I'm not coming to your wedding, you fat witch." My brother and our parents are calling me out and saying I messed up. Was I the idiot? Not the idiot. Telling someone to gain weight for their own vanity is one of the most narcissistic things I've ever read. I would have called her worse names. And you didn't mess up. Not to me. It sounds like you just avoided an expensive airline ticket. People like her don't deserve a place in your life. Make her apologize for her comment and her demand. This is borderline but not the idiot. Your reaction was not genteel, but it is understandable after they got angry, insulted you, and then actually asked you to gain weight for the wedding. You had weight issues prior, and your height and weight are now in normal range. Did they want you to have an eating disorder? Good luck to your brother in getting married to this person. How's it borderline? Get off your high horse. People matching energy and defending themselves isn't being an idiot though, in general. There's been this terrible phase where people started preaching, don't get down to their level. No exceptions. And if you lose your temper ever, it makes you a garbage person and you lose all moral high ground. Basically, let them scream and insult you. Take the disrespect and humiliation. and keep calmly treating them as if they were a rational person capable of conflict resolution. It's just ignore the bully dressed up for adults. And guess what? It doesn't work any better at 20 plus than it did during school. Yep, you were nice and understanding the entire conversation, but you have a limit. She called you a cow and implied she wanted you in the wedding to make herself look good. Book yourself an amazing holiday while they have the wedding. If anyone asks why you didn't attend, tell them the truth, that sister-in-law is horribly insecure. Your future sister-in-law needs to work on her insecurities instead of making ridiculous demands. My 22 female best friend John 23 male, and I have been friends since we were kids. We were very close as kids and we had a fake wedding when we were 7 and 8. In high school we recreated the fake wedding pics and he had one of those pics in his wallet. John has distanced himself from me since he got with his girlfriend, Dinah 23, around 2 years ago. We still hang out, but he always makes time for Dinah first instead of me. The only way I can see him now is if we grab coffee once every few days, but other than that, he won't come to my house when we used to have sleepovers and movie nights and won't invite me to his house either. I feel neglected and hurt because we've been inseparable since we were small kids. A couple of days ago, I grabbed coffee with him at a coffee shop. When he opened his wallet to grab his card and pay, I noticed he had put a pic of him and Dinah where he had our fake wedding pic. I asked him about it and pointed out how I noticed, to which he only said, "What about it?" I was like, really? Why did you take our picture out and replace it with him and Dinah? He said Dinah's his girlfriend, and he doesn't understand why I'm making such a big deal about it. I reminded him she might be his girlfriend, but he couldn't just throw me away. I've been his best friend since primary school, and my pic existed in his wallet first, and he threw it away to replace me with someone he knew significantly less. He got annoyed and told me that once I stop being an immature, annoying brat, he'll talk to me again. Until then, I better leave him to his peace, because he's not dealing with my childish tantrum. Am I the idiot here? Wholly entitled guacamole Batman. You are the idiot. You're not his wife or girlfriend. His partner should come before you regardless of your history. Dinah is his number one, no matter what you went through, and she always will be. Questioning her importance won't be a look. Please apologize, and in the future, please avoid leaving the impression that you're trying to sabotage John and Dinah's relationship. Not a good look. The stunt you pulled on John was stupid, right? I'd be furious if my boyfriend was having sleepovers with another woman and had a picture of them together as the first spot in his wallet. What the heck? Does OP expect to be able to sleep with him when they're both married too? Bye hun. Gonna go cuddle with my platonic friend all night. She sounds like a jealous girlfriend that doesn't accept that the guy isn't actually her partner. She believed they would eventually get together and be married, not fake. Yeah, the whole fake wedding at 7 and recreated the photo in high school just screamed she thought it would be all real one day. She describes wanting an emotional affair with him by placing greater priority on her over his girlfriend. That's not a friendship. P, you're the idiot. It doesn't matter who knew him first. It's not a competition. For all you know, she could be his future wife. If I were him, I would cut contact with you solely because you don't respect his relationship. Unfortunately, not all friendships last into adulthood, and you just made it exponentially easier for him to walk away from this friendship by refusing to admit that you're jealous that all the attention he used to give you now goes to someone else. My brother's wife, Tam, always wanted a daughter. She had 2 sons and decided she was done having kids. They signed up for foster to adopt. Tam bonded with the baby girl placed with them. Even though everyone warned her, there was no guarantee the baby would become eligible for adoption. She did become eligible, and so did her older brother, and my brother and his wife were asked if they would adopt him as well. Tam didn't want to adopt the boy, but my brother was uncomfortable separating siblings. He said it was both or neither because he wouldn't be able to look the little girl in the eyes if he rejected her brother. Tam was upset, but she agreed to adopt him. Ever since the adoption, Tam has struggled. She says it's similar to postpartum depression. I'm not qualified to say it is or it isn't, but I don't believe so. All of her struggles center around her adopted son. She gets upset because he talks to his sister in a language no one in the house knows. She says it's because it gives her anxiety to not know what he's saying. And even when he repeats himself in English, he could be lying about what he said. She also gets frustrated with his pretty innocuous behavior, like he always separates his food and rearranges stuff like shoe racks and toy bins. I think he has autism or OCD and should be evaluated, but she thinks he's doing it to upset her. She insists that she treats all the children the same, but that hasn't been my observation. Granted, I'm not around them every day. She gets frustrated with him quickly and doesn't praise him like she does the younger children. Yesterday, I picked the boys up from school because she had to bring the daughter to an appointment. I was supposed to stay for dinner. She was happy and smiling when she got home, but her mood immediately dropped when she saw her oldest. The kids all went to the backyard to play, and I helped her start dinner. She told me that the oldest makes her feel like a bad mom because loving him is hard work. I got frustrated with her and told her he doesn't make her feel like a bad mom. She is being a bad mom to him. She started listing all of his problems and explaining how she struggled with her mental health. I said those are all excuses and she's not doing right by him. She said it wasn't her fault and I said she should have never adopted either of those children if she couldn't love them both. She accused me of always disliking her and never really accepting her as a family member because she has a different background. I said she was projecting because that's literally what she's doing to her son. She asked me to leave and I did. My brother's upset with me. He said I set back his wife's mental health and made everything worse so I could feel holier than thou. He might be right. What I said probably won't make anything better. Was I an idiot? Not the idiot. She had the choice, both or neither. If she wasn't prepared to love both, she never should have agreed to take both in. She's denying that boy a loving home and the support he needs because of her imagined narrative. She's an adult. Her mental state did not make her choose to adopt that boy. She needs to be responsible and seek support and help for her mental health issues, rather than using it to scapegoat a specific child. She needs to be the adult and the parent she signed up to be. I gotta be honest. The dad is also an idiot here too. He knew his wife and he had to say both or neither because she was being so selfish. He should have put his foot down and said no because of how his wife was acting. And both of them stole the chance to find a loving family from that boy. She sounds like a narcissistic nightmare. You were only standing up for your nephew. You were being the supportive adult that he clearly needs in his life. I worry for the future of the eldest boy and his brothers. Imagine having such a cold mother who says it's so hard to love them, even though they've done nothing to justify that comment. People need to stop weaponizing their mental health against the truth. My 38th female fiancé, Jake, 46 male, moved in with me 6 months ago. Then 2 months later, his daughter Carrie moved in with us. Carrie is lazy. She doesn't do chores, cleaning, cooking, or even laundry. She leaves a mess everywhere she goes, doesn't listen when I ask her to help, rolls her eyes and continuously mocks me. Jake says she's a kid. Give her time. She'll get better. And to ease up on her because it's not a big deal. Recently, in the past 3 to 4 weeks, Carrie's been tossing her dishes into the sink, usually from halfway between the dining table and sink, which is several feet. The problem is that all my dishes are either ceramic or glass, which means they're getting shattered when they land. I'm at the point of using paper plates, cups, and bowls since I don't have enough dishes anymore. I've told and snapped at Carrie to stop many times, but she does it anyway. Giggles, says, "Oops, sorry, guess I forgot," and practically skips out of the kitchen. I told Jake that Carrie could find a way to pay for the dishes she's broken or go to live with her mom or grandparents. I'm done being disrespected in my home. Jake says I'm being a total witch towards his child. She has no job. It's unfair to kick Carrie out. And if I do, he will never forgive me for being so cruel as to make Carrie feel this isn't her home too. Am I the idiot? Edit to add, Carrie's 21. She moved here to go to college but decided not to go. And Jake offered to move her to my house. I initially said yes because he always talked about how great she was. And she seemed okay the few times I'd met her. Honey, kick them both out. She's awful. And he's as bad since he won't see it. They can live together and you'll be much better off. You have to rethink your relationship with your boyfriend. Even Brad Pitt wouldn't be worth this crap. So you plan to marry a man who didn't teach any respect for others and his child is okay with you being treated like crap and now is making you the villain. The first time was an oops. Every other broken plate was an intentional act. She has to go and he should probably be right behind her. Exactly. This 21-year-old adult is not just a kid, decides not to go to college, doesn't have a job, is disrespectful as heck to the owner of the home. And somehow in her 21 years on this planet, she didn't learn that you don't throw dishes? OP, your primary concern is your fiancé's unwillingness to do anything about her behavior. Since they moved in with you, it's your home. They should respect that. You have a huge fiancé problem and shouldn't marry him until the problems with his daughter are resolved.